Hi, and welcome back to AI News that you should know about for July 7th. I'm your host, Ashley Coffey.
And I'm Daniel Hill. A lot happens in the AI news world, and we give you the highlights as quickly as we can.
That's right. And we have some exciting news for you. So, we're celebrating 1 year of bringing you AI news that you should know about. And we're making a little change that many of you have been asking for. Thanks to your support, we're moving from publishing once a week to twice a week. So, that means more AI news, more insights, and more of the stories that actually matter delivered to you throughout the week so you're always up to speed. Today on the show, we're talking about how X now offers MCP Server to make its platform easier for AI tools to use, and Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella on the future of AI. All right, jumping in here. X now offers an MCP server to make its platforms easier for AI tools to use. This is coming from TechCrunch. I'll be sure to link the article in the show notes that way you can read it. But X is making it a little bit easier for AI assistants like Claude, Cursor, Grok Build, and other MCP-compatible apps, which are a lot, to connect directly to the platform through a new hosted MCP server. For those that aren't familiar with MCP, let me explain because you're probably going to be seeing it much more often. MCP is an open standard protocol that defines a common way for AI models to connect to external tools and services. MCP has been around for a long time. It's nothing new. But previously, if developers wanted an AI assistant like Claude to access X, they would have to build their own MCP server, host it, connect it to the X API, and handle the authentication. Now, X hosts the MCP and users authenticate with their own X accounts permissions. So, of course, there's always concern about removing infrastructure. X is opening up itself to more automated posting or spam. We already know that bot traffic outpaces human traffic now, and X is one of those places that a lot of bots. I personally left X when Elon Musk took over. That's neither here nor there. However, X did clarify to TechCrunch that the MCP tool is not compatible with X's Write API endpoints, so it's not possible to use it to post autonomously or at all on X. So I'm glad that they clarified that. What are your thoughts, Daniel?
This is an interesting one to me. This is the first time I'm really hearing about MCP, but I'm concerned or confused, I guess, how it's an open standard, but yet X is the one that hosts that MCP. So how open is it really? Are there other companies that have access to it? Anyone can make their own MCP server. I'm not too familiar with this standard, so I definitely need to get up to speed on it. But to your point, it's good that there are safety controls in place so that you can't just post autonomously to X using those API endpoints, like you said.
I like to use an analogy of think of SSL certificates. Are you familiar? So, like whenever
Of course.
you get SSL certificates, they're secure. So, for example, one of my websites is on Squarespace. So, I myself, yes, I own the domain, but I put my domain on Squarespace. So that means they take care of the SSL certificate issuing every year. I don't have to do that. For example, on my other side, I have a website that I built that I own the domain, but it's hosted on Adobe Portfolio. Now with Adobe Portfolio, they do issue the SSL, but in order to do it automatically, you have to disconnect your website and reconnect for it to issue the SSL. So what MCP is an open protocol. However, it's all dependent on who is hosting, where the work is done. So by X hosting it, that means there's fewer steps on the developer end for infrastructure and permission and security. And therefore, it's blanketed into X versus an individual, if that
So
helps.
it does. In that case, how is MCP different from any other API that might be used to connect to an AI tool?
It's about the read and write, being able to read information and write information or just read versus read write. So just think about like when we used to burn a CD, we choose do we want to read or write or overwrite? Similar to that. And depending on the stream of information and the ability to go back and forth will depend on the level of security risk. And that's why they're saying here in the clarification that it's not going to be used to autonomously post. And that was the biggest concern. And you'll see everyone else is using MCP. It's just a method of having a handshake of data connection. And sometimes those handshakes are only as good as the negotiations that are happening between the companies.
Very interesting.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, we'll be talking about Microsoft's CEO in the future on AI.
Welcome back. Continuing with our stories, the CEO of Microsoft made some significant comments on the future of AI. By way of background, Microsoft owns a 50% stake in OpenAI, and Microsoft is deeply invested in providing services to the major AI companies. Microsoft has also invested billions in helping to build up OpenAI into the company that we know today. Microsoft and OpenAI recently struck a deal that allowed OpenAI to expand its ties to other large tech companies, and Microsoft has also reached a multi-billion-dollar agreement with Anthropic as well. Here's the news. The CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, created a long blog post on X, Twitter, about how AI companies are approaching the landscape incorrectly. He gave more information in an interview with the Wall Street Journal, where he critiqued the way that a small group of AI companies have made prophecies about job loss and the future of work. The CEO, Satya Nadella, said to the Wall Street Journal, quote, "You can't say, hey, all white-collar jobs are gone, and this could even be a weapon, and we'll use all the powers to build data centers," end quote. He wasn't naming OpenAI or Anthropic or Google specifically in his comments, but he made it clear that Microsoft is trying to steer the AI race away from a future dictated and controlled by these model building companies. Interestingly, Microsoft has recently rolled out low cost models meant to drive prices down for customers who are dealing with the sticker shock of increasing AI bills. The company released Copilot Cowork, which is an AI agent allowing users to choose various AI models, including cheaper ones, for tasks. The CEO, Satya Nadella, also criticized executives who have thought of AI technology as a tool for just reducing costs through job eliminations. He said, quote, "No, how about we think about reorganizing the jobs," end quote. And he was saying that companies have to possess token capital, which is the in-house AI capability, and human capital, people who actually understand the companies and understand the work that needs to be done. Ashley, what's your take?
So glad you picked this because I love it. I agree with Satya Nadella and I admire and appreciate that he's speaking out on this because this is an unpopular opinion. And I'm glad that you mentioned that Microsoft has a 27% stake in OpenAI. That's really important here. But he's right. And I liked what you said about him quoting, "You can't say, hey, all white collar jobs are gone. This could even be a weapon and we will use all the power to build data centers." We're seeing that happening in real time. And I agree that executives are using AI as an excuse for bad management and bad business decisions that have been made over the past 5 years. Because we had COVID, right? We had the overhiring and we had everyone, it was a great job market for people who wanted jobs. And now it's opposite. So I think companies are taking advantage of the fact that it's a great opportunity for them to say, hey, let's just blanket statement all of our problems as we're doing AI and we're going to be innovative and amazing. That's not the case because, as we've seen, sometimes that could be a more expensive call in the long run. But finally, someone is saying what we're all thinking, that the prophesizing, I love what he said there because that's so true. Like 7 people are the ones that are creating these prophecies, and everyone is looking to these people as like the singular source of truth when the reality is no one knows what's going to happen next. But I appreciate him for speaking out. So thank you for picking this one, Daniel.
Yeah, I'm glad you said all of that because I agree with what he said as well. Companies keep laying off workers, citing AI as the reason. And what happens? Their stock price immediately goes up. But that's not long term thinking. One of the points that Satya was making is companies should be teaching employees how to provide value to the company going forward, and companies should be leveraging the employees' existing knowledge of the company to help the company grow, right? So, like you said, I'm glad one CEO is brave enough to stand up and say, no, well, what's happening isn't right. Here's what should be happening. Hopefully, more catch on to that same line of thinking.
Yeah. And I think also what's not being said here is the equity issue, the ability for this to be an equitable future for everyone. We're just seeing the division even more so than others of companies saying, oh, we're going to lay off 20% of our workforce, stock prices go up. People that are owning stock aren't the people with the boots on the ground. They have no idea what's going on in the industry. They just see a signal and they're like, oh, that's great. That's not long run. I mean, you saw Palantir, their stock is down significantly. No surprise there because it's always cyclical and it never turns out the way that we think it is. So don't get too confident, Mark Zuckerberg.
That is it for our AI news that you should know about this week. If you want links to everything we talked about, you can find it in the show notes. And please send us a message. We love hearing from listeners with positive encouragement and also what we can do better. You can find me on Instagram at Daniel Hill Media.
And if you want more tech talk, you can find me on Instagram at AshleyRCoffee89, where you can sign up for my monthly AI newsletter where I share the latest tips, tricks, and prompts. The link in my bio.
Thank you for listening and come back at the end of the week for more AI news you should know about.